Prime Minister Persad-Bissessar's courageous stand against the PNM's grass-cutting plantation, an editorial by Professor Wall Street. Breaking the chains of perpetual poverty and forced employment. Prime Minister Persad-Bissessar's bold declaration that Trinidad and Tobago had become a nation of grass cutters under the PNM represents a courageous confrontation with one of the most shameful legacies of the previous administration. Her commitment to restructuring CPEP, URP, and the National Reforestation Program is not just sound economic policy, it's a moral imperative to restore dignity to Trinidad and Tobago's most vulnerable citizens. For too long, the PNM has masqueraded exploitation as employment, trapping thousands of our most disadvantaged citizens in cycles of dependency disguised as work programs. What they cynically call the Unemployment Relief Program should have been honestly renamed the Permanent Employment Relief Program, PERF, because that's exactly what it became. A system designed to keep people permanently dependent on government handouts rather than genuinely empowering them with skills and opportunities for advancement. The Prime Minister's courage in calling out this institutionalized deception deserves our highest praise. While the PNM and their apologists cry foul, she has exposed the ugly truth. These programs were never designed to lift people out of poverty. They were designed to create a permanent underclass of grateful voters dependent on PNM patronage for survival. Here are 10 reasons why Prime Minister Persad-Bissessar is absolutely correct. 1. The dignity deficit, reducing humans to lawn maintenance. The PNM's approach to social programs reduced proud Trimagonians to nothing more than human lawnmowers. CPEP workers cutting grass, URP participants cutting grass, reforestation workers cutting grass instead of planting trees. This wasn't employment, it was systematic dehumanization. The Prime Minister correctly identified that these programs stripped away human dignity by confining people to mindless, repetitive tasks that offered no path to advancement or skill development. 2. The skills development fraud. True employment programs should build skills, create pathways to better jobs, and empower participants to eventually transition to independent employment. The PNM's grass-cutting programs did none of this. After years in CPEP or URP, participants had no marketable skills beyond wielding a cutlass. This wasn't job training. It was a deliberate strategy to keep people dependent on government programs forever. 3. The permanent dependency design. The insight about renaming URP to Permanent Employment Relief Program, PERF, cuts to the heart of the PNM's cynical strategy. These programs were never designed to be temporary relief. They were designed to create permanent dependence. The PNM wanted grateful voters, not empowered citizens, and they achieved this by ensuring participants never develop skills to leave the programs. 4. The waste of human potential. Every person trapped in endless grass cutting represents wasted human potential. These are citizens capable of learning trades, developing businesses, contributing to economic growth, and building better lives for their families. The PNM's approach treated them as incapable of anything beyond basic manual labor, revealing a deeply classist and elitist mindset that viewed poor people as inherently limited. 5. The economic inefficiency scandal. From a purely economic perspective, the PNM's grass-cutting programs were massively inefficient. Paying thousands of people to cut grass that grows back within weeks with no measurable improvement to communities or development of productive capacity, represents one of the most wasteful uses of public funds in Trinidad and Tobago's history. The Prime Minister correctly identifies this as poor stewardship of taxpayer money. 6. The GAN infiltration reality. The Prime Minister's concern about gang infiltration in CPEP is not political rhetoric, it's documented reality. The PNM's loose structure and lack of proper vetting created opportunities for criminal elements to exploit these programs. By maintaining the status quo, previous administrations were effectively subsidizing criminal networks while doing nothing to address the root causes of crime and poverty. 7. The false employment statistics. The PNM used these programs to artificially inflate employment statistics while doing nothing to address real unemployment. Counting grass cutters as employed was statistical manipulation that masked the true depth of Trinidad and Tobago's employment crisis. The Prime Minister's restructuring approach will create genuine employment opportunities that contribute to economic growth and human development. 8. The institutional racism of low expectations. The PNM's assumption that poor people, predominantly black and mixed-race citizens, were only capable of cutting grass reveals institutional racism disguised as social programming. This approach reinforced harmful stereotypes about the capabilities of working-class Trinbagonians, while ensuring they remain trapped in cycles of poverty and dependence. 9. The corruption and contractor exploitation. The existing CPEP structure created numerous opportunities for corruption, with contractors exploiting both workers and the system. The Prime Minister's commitment to restructuring addresses these systemic vulnerabilities while ensuring that public funds actually benefit participants rather than enriching connected contractors and middlemen. 10. The vision for human development. Most importantly, the Prime Minister offers a transformative vision, replacing mindless grass cutting with skills training, stipends during transition periods, and pathways to sustainable employment. This approach treats participants as human beings with potential rather than as permanent dependents satisfied with subsistence-level handouts. The moral courage of truth-telling. The Prime Minister's willingness to speak this uncomfortable truth about the PNM's social programs demonstrates moral courage that has been lacking in Trinidad and Tobago's political discourse. While it would have been politically easier to continue the failed status quo and avoid controversy, she chose to confront a system that has perpetuated poverty and dependency for decades. Her statement that she cannot in good conscience continue that program reveals a leader guided by principles rather than political expediency. This is exactly the kind of moral leadership Trinidad and Tobago needs. Leaders willing to make difficult decisions to break cycles of poverty rather than exploit them for political gain. The PNM's shameful legacy. The PNM should indeed be ashamed of what they did to Trinidad and Tobago's most vulnerable citizens. They took people desperate for work and dignity and condemned them to decades of meaningless grass cutting. They created a system that trapped people in poverty while claiming to help them, wasted human potential on an industrial scale, corrupted the concept of work by reducing it to make-work programs, created dependency rather than empowerment, exploited desperation for political gain, institutionalized low expectations based on class and race, squandered public resources on programs designed to fail. This legacy represents one of the most cynical betrayals of public trust in Trinidad and Tobago's political history. The transformation imperative. The Prime Minister's approach recognizes that genuine social programs should build skills. Participants should leave with marketable abilities. Create pathways. Clear routes to better employment should exist. Restore dignity. Work should be meaningful and empowering. Break cycles. Programs should end dependency, not perpetuate it. Develop communities. Activities should improve neighborhoods permanently. Generate value. Public investment should create lasting benefits. Her vision of providing stipends while people learn skills and transition to sustainable employment represents a fundamental shift from exploitation to empowerment. The political courage to confront dependency. The Prime Minister's position requires tremendous political courage because it confronts a system that has created vested interests in maintaining the status quo. CPEP contractors, URP administrators, and even some participants have become dependent on these flawed programs. Breaking these cycles requires leadership willing to endure short-term criticism for long-term transformation. Her willingness to face legal challenges, political opposition, and even criticism from some UNC supporters demonstrates the kind of principled leadership that puts national development ahead of political convenience. The economic development imperative. Trinidad and Tobago cannot develop economically, while significant portions of its workforce are trapped in unproductive make-work programs. Real development requires skills development that matches market needs, entrepreneurship training that creates job creators, value-added activities that contribute to economic growth, innovation and creativity that drives competitiveness, productive capacity building that generates wealth. The Prime Minister's vision aligns with these development imperatives, while the PNM's grass-cutting approach actively hindered economic progress. In conclusion, breaking free from the grass-cutting plantation. Prime Minister Persad-Bissessar's courageous stand against the PNM's grass-cutting programs represents more than policy reform. It's a liberation movement for Trinidad and Tobago's most vulnerable citizens. Her recognition that we have become a nation of grass cutters under the PNM exposes a system designed to exploit rather than empower, to maintain dependency rather than create opportunity. The PNM's legacy of reducing proud Trinbagonians to human lawn maintenance equipment should indeed shame them. They had the opportunity to create transformative social programs that built skills, restored dignity, and created pathways out of poverty. Instead, they chose to build a modern plantation system where people were kept dependent and grateful for the privilege of cutting grass. The Prime Minister's commitment to restructuring these programs, despite political costs and legal challenges, demonstrates the kind of moral leadership Trinidad and Tobago desperately needs. Her vision of skills training, transitional support, and sustainable employment treats citizens as human beings with unlimited potential rather than as permanent dependents satisfied with subsistence. This is not about being vicious or racist, as the Prime Minister correctly noted. It's about basic human dignity and sound economic policy. Every citizen deserves the opportunity to develop skills, build careers, and contribute meaningfully to national development. The PNM's grass-cutting programs deny these opportunities while perpetuating the very poverty they claim to address. The choice is clear. We can continue the PNM's failed legacy of human waste and artificial dependency, or we can embrace the Prime Minister's transformative vision of empowerment, skills development, and genuine opportunity. The citizens trapped in these programs for decades deserve better than endless grass cutting. They deserve the chance to build real skills, pursue meaningful careers, and achieve the dignity that comes with productive work. Prime Minister Persad-Bissessar has chosen the path of transformation over exploitation, empowerment over dependency, and human dignity over political convenience. History will vindicate her courage in confronting this shameful legacy and working to restore the potential and dignity of Trinidad and Tobago's most vulnerable citizens. The grass-cutting plantation is closing. The age of genuine human development has begun.